My sister stole my promotion after spreading rumors about me. 12 years later, we met at a gala honoring successful women in business. With a cocky grin, she said, "Bet you're still bitter I took what was meant for you." I sipped my wine and said, "Actually, I own the company that just sponsored this event." She spilled her drink when she saw the banner with my name. I, 32F, worked at a marketing firm for over a decade, building my career one step at a time. I was up for a promotion I'd worked hard for, but my younger sister, Bella, 28F, swooped in and took it after spreading rumors about me. She played the office game better than I ever did. Fast forward 12 years, and we ran into each other at a gala honoring successful women in business. She made a snide comment about me still being bitter, but I couldn't help but smile. "Actually," I said, "I own the company that just sponsored this event." Her face said it all. We were raised in Atlanta, a city where ambition was as much a part of the air as the humidity. My family lived in the suburbs, a place where the houses were spacious, and everything looked perfect on the surface. Bella and I grew up there, me, the serious older sister, focused on my studies, my work, my career, and Bella, the charming, social younger sister, always surrounded by friends, effortlessly navigating through life. I loved her, but there was always a little resentment buried deep within me. It was hard not to feel like I was constantly trying to measure up to her. She was the one people gravitated toward. Me? I was the one who buried my head in work, often at the expense of socializing or networking. I knew how to succeed by grinding, through effort, through dedication. Bella, on the other hand, was a master of connections. She knew how to make the right impression with just a smile, a conversation, a perfectly timed joke. I guess it was never a competition, until it became one. I'd been working at Arcadia Enterprises, a mid-sized marketing firm, for nearly a decade. I wasn't at the top yet, but the senior vice president role of client relations had been mine in my mind for years. I'd spent countless nights working overtime, handling client relations with the precision of a surgeon. Everyone knew I was the one for the job. Or at least, I thought they did. Then Bella came back to Atlanta from Chicago after a brief stint at a rival firm. At first, I was glad to have her back. We hadn't spent much time together as adults, and maybe I was a little eager for that connection. But soon, I noticed her turning up at the right events, making the right friends, and getting chummy with the people who held the power in the office. It was subtle at first, just casual interactions, friendly lunches, harmless coffee breaks. I didn't think much of it until I started hearing things. "Did you hear Bella's making moves? She's got some real influence with the new clients," one colleague said to me, her tone half joking but mostly serious. Another one said, "Bella knows how to work a room. It's impressive. People like her, you know?" I brushed it off, convinced that the rumors were just that, rumors. Until the day I was called into Grant Holloway's office. He was the CEO of Arcadia, and the moment I stepped in, I could tell something was off. Grant was usually all business, but today, he seemed almost apologetic. "Savannah," he began, his voice soft, "we've decided to go with Bella for the senior vice president role." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My hands went clammy, and I struggled to keep my face neutral. I don't understand," I stammered. "It's not personal, Savannah," Grant said, looking at me as though I should be grateful. "But Bella's got the people skills we're looking for, and we think she's going to be a great fit with the direction we're taking the company." I couldn't process it. This wasn't happening. I had put in years of work, hours upon hours of overtime, and sacrificed so much to make sure that promotion was mine. Bella hadn't even been here long enough to understand the intricacies of the client relationships I had spent so many years building. It didn't make sense. But Grant wasn't budging. The anger started to rise in me, a slow burn that would take years to cool down. I didn't show it outwardly, I just nodded, thanked him for his consideration, and left the office. But inside, I was seething. I found out later, through office whispers and one too many casual conversations with coworkers, that Bella had been spreading rumors about me. I was too serious, too focused on work, too blunt, and hard to approach. Meanwhile, Bella had positioned herself as the fun, approachable one. She made sure to attend every office party, every lunch outing, even arranging a few client meetings on her own. She was everywhere, and suddenly, it all seemed to make sense. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I had always prided myself on being the bigger person, but this was different. The betrayal stung in ways I hadn't imagined, but I buried it, pushed it deep inside, and focused on my work. Over the next few years, Bella's career flourished, and my resentment only grew. I couldn't stand seeing her glide through the workplace with ease, knowing that she had done so by using every trick in the book. But what could I do? The promotion was hers. The position she'd taken was now locked. I had no choice but to move on. But deep down, I knew that something had to change. I couldn't let this consume me forever. And so, I decided to leave Arcadia. I took a leap, a risk, and started my own business. It wasn't easy. There were nights I questioned everything. But over the years, Magnolia's strategies grew, slowly at first, but steadily. I worked harder than I ever had before, building relationships with clients and creating a reputation for being reliable and results-driven. 12 years after my sister's betrayal, I had built a company from scratch that was starting to make waves in the industry. It was at a gala honoring successful women in business that I ran into her again. The invitation had been for me, of course. Magnolia Strategies was a sponsor of the event, and I knew this would be an opportunity to network and celebrate the hard work I'd put into my company. But when I arrived at the event and walked into the grand ballroom, I saw Bella, mingling with a group of executives from one of the biggest financial firms in the city. She hadn't changed. She was still the same charming, social butterfly, laughing loudly, leaning in too close when she spoke, always at the center of attention. I had spent years getting over the bitterness, but when I saw her there, my chest tightened. The anger, the hurt, the memories, all of it came flooding back. But then, Bella saw me. Her eyes widened with recognition, and a slow smile spread across her face. She made her way over to me, as confident as ever, her heels clicking on the marble floor. She was wearing a bright red dress, the kind of bold statement I would have never chosen, but that seemed to suit her just fine. "Well, well, well," she said, her voice dripping with that familiar smugness. "Bet you're still bitter I took what was meant for you." I didn't even flinch. I just raised my glass, took a slow sip of my wine, and let the silence stretch for a moment. It felt almost surreal, standing there in front of her after all these years. The years of resentment, the months of pain, it all seemed like nothing now. "Actually," I said, looking her directly in the eye, "I own the company that just sponsored this event." Bella's face froze. I watched her try to process what I had said, her smile faltering as the weight of the words hit her. She glanced around the room, and I could see the panic in her eyes as she turned her head toward the banner hanging at the back of the room. It was large, the gold lettering unmistakable. Magnolia Strategies, it read, bold and clear. My name, printed in small letters beneath, as the founder and CEO. Bella's eyes flicked from the banner to me and back again. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then, I watched as her hand trembled, and her glass tipped, spilling red wine across the pristine white carpet. I didn't say anything more. There was no need to. I simply turned on my heel and walked away, my heart steady and calm, leaving her standing there, speechless. As I walked away from Bella, the air felt strangely light, like I was shedding the weight of years of frustration in a single step. The gala carried on around me, but it felt like the room had quieted just a bit in my mind. I didn't look back. Instead, I made my way to the other side of the room, joining a group of businesswomen I had been speaking with earlier. It felt surreal, but in a good way. I hadn't realized until that moment how much I had been carrying all those years, how deeply that betrayal had been embedded in me. Bella's actions, her lies, and the way she had swept into my life and stolen something I had worked so hard for, it had shaped the way I approached relationships ever since. Yet now, as I sipped my wine and engaged in conversation with the other women, I felt lighter. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was content. Magnolia Strategies had grown beyond what I'd ever imagined when I first took the leap of faith to leave Arcadia. It wasn't just a business anymore, it was a testament to everything I had worked for, to the way I had built something solid and real from the ground up. As I spoke to the women around me, some of whom I had known for years and others who were new faces, an overwhelming sense of pride filled me. These women, like me, had battled their way through corporate struggles, through office politics, and through their own personal battles. But they were all here now, standing tall, shining in their own right. There was no doubt in my mind that I belonged here, too. I could see Bella in the corner of my eye, still standing near the group of executives, though now she was looking more uncomfortable. Her earlier bravado had completely deflated, and I noticed how her posture had become rigid, her smile forced. She had always known how to present I needed herself, but now, it was clear, she wasn't the one in control. That was my moment. A part of me wanted to go up to her, to speak to her, to ask her if she remembered how she'd gotten her position in the first place. I could have said something cutting, something to put her in her place, but I didn't. I had learned over the years that silence was often the best response to someone who had spent their whole life speaking loudly just to drown out the truth. As the night wore on, I noticed Bella gradually pulling herself away from the group, her interactions becoming more strained. Eventually, she disappeared from my line of sight, and I didn't see her again for the rest of the evening. It was almost as if she had vanished, retreating into the shadows where she'd spent so much of her life, hiding behind charm and manipulation. I couldn't help but feel a sense of calm. She had always been the one who got attention, who got what she wanted by playing the game. But now, the truth was out there for everyone to see. The tables had turned, and she was no longer the one in the spotlight. The rest of the evening continued with laughter and congratulations. A few people came up to me to express their admiration for Magnolia Strategies, to talk about potential future collaborations, and I basked in the moment. It was all so gratifying. This was my time, my moment to shine, not because of luck, but because of the work I had put in. No amount of rumors or manipulation could take that away from me. Later that night, when the event began to wind down, I received a message on my phone. It was from one of my closest clients, a longtime friend and business partner who had attended the gala. I saw the banner. Magnolia is doing great. I'm proud of you, Savannah. You've earned this. I smiled, holding the phone for a moment before replying, thanks. It hasn't been easy, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life. But as I put my phone away and began to gather my things, my mind drifted back to Bella, standing there with her drink in hand, her face pale. I didn't want to hold on to the anger anymore. After everything she had done, after taking something that wasn't hers, I had earned the right to feel vindicated. But I didn't want to let that one moment define me, either. I had learned a lot in those 12 years. A lot about work. A lot about people. And a lot about myself. I wasn't just a woman trying to prove myself in a man's world anymore. I had become a force to be reckoned with, not because of the power I held over others, but because of the power I had found within myself. As I walked out of the event, the cool night air greeted me, the sounds of the city humming in the distance. My car was waiting in the driveway, the soft glow of the streetlights guiding me toward it. It was then, as I stood by the door, that I felt the weight of everything I had accomplished, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt, and realized that it had all led me here. 12 years ago, I had been blindsided by betrayal. Now, I stood on my own terms. Bella may have stolen the promotion I had worked for, but I had taken back everything else. I didn't need to hold on to the past. I was far past it now. The truth was clear to me: success wasn't about titles. It wasn't about having the most friends in the room or making the loudest noise. It was about owning your story, regardless of what anyone else tried to write for you. And I had learned that lesson well. The cool air of the Atlanta night felt like a soft balm against my skin as I stepped out of the event. The gala was still in full swing behind me, but my mind was already miles away from that crowded ballroom, where I'd just had my unexpected confrontation with Bella. As I walked toward my car, I couldn't help but replay the events in my head. The look on Bella's face when she realized I was the one behind the event that had so casually, so effortlessly, put her in her place, it was priceless. It wasn't anger that I felt as I walked away from her, it was a deep, quiet satisfaction. I had spent so many years harboring resentment and bitterness, but now, as I looked at my reflection in the car window, I felt free. Free from the years of trying to outdo her. Free from the sting of the betrayal that had haunted me for over a decade. When I got home that night, the apartment was quiet, the way I liked it. I sat down on my couch with a glass of water, trying to collect my thoughts, but all I could think of was how far I had come. Magnolia Strategies was booming. I was in the driver's seat of my own success. The career I had built, the relationships I had forged, it was all mine. And Bella? Well, she had chosen to play a game she didn't understand. And now, she had lost. But it wasn't just about the satisfaction of seeing her defeated. It was more than that. It was about the power of reclaiming what was rightfully mine. Not the promotion she'd stolen, but the trust in my own abilities. The belief that I didn't need anyone's validation but my own. That was the real victory. A few days passed, and I went back to my usual routine, handling clients, managing the company, and making sure Magnolia continued to thrive. I received more messages and congratulations from people who had been at the gala, many commenting on the banner and asking how I'd come to sponsor such a prestigious event. It felt nice to bask in the glow of my success, but it didn't take long before my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I picked it up, and before I could even say hello, the voice on the other end made my stomach turn. It was Bella. "Savannah," she began, her tone almost apologetic. I didn't expect to run into you at the gala, but I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" I could tell she was trying to sound calm, but there was an edge to her voice. The same edge that had been there in our younger years whenever she'd done something wrong and tried to brush it off with a charm that was thinly veiled over guilt. I paused for a moment before responding. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, an apology, maybe? Or perhaps an attempt at salvaging some form of peace between us? But what I heard next was not something I expected. "Savannah, I know I did something terrible to you. And I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I need you to know that I never meant to hurt you. I've been thinking about everything for days, and it's eating at me." I could hear her voice cracking slightly, and I had to admit, it caught me off guard. For the first time in over a decade, Bella sounded vulnerable. She wasn't the confident, cocky woman who had breezed through life with a smile and a sharp word. She sounded like she was grappling with something bigger than herself. "I've been so selfish," she continued, her words coming faster now, as though the confession was rushing out of her. "I wanted what you had. I wanted your life, your career, your success, and I used everything I could to get it. But when I saw you at that gala, when I saw what you'd built, I realized I've been living in your shadow for so long. And I hate myself for it." There was a long silence between us, and I could feel the tension hanging in the air. I wasn't sure what to say. A part of me wanted to scream at her, to tell her exactly how much she had ruined for me. But another part of me, the one that had spent so long healing, building, and growing, knew that this moment wasn't about getting back at her. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about closure. "Why now?" I finally asked. "Why after all these years?" "I don't know," she said, a little defeated. Maybe it was seeing you, seeing how far you've come. Or maybe it's just that I'm tired of carrying the guilt. I don't expect you to forgive me, Savannah. But I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. For everything. I took a deep breath. This wasn't the Bella I had known. This was someone different, someone who was finally admitting what I had always known deep down. She had been playing a game she didn't understand. And somewhere along the way, she had lost herself. I don't know what you want from me, I said, my voice steady. But I've spent enough time being angry. I don't need your apology, Bella. I've moved on. I understand, she whispered, and for the first time, I could hear the sincerity in her voice. But I had to say it. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't ready to forgive her, and I wasn't going to pretend that things could go back to how they were. But I also knew that holding on to that anger wasn't helping anyone. Not her. And certainly not me. I'll see you around, Bella, I said, my voice softer now. But I've got a life of my own to live. I hung up the phone and sat back in my chair, my thoughts swirling. I had gotten what I needed. I didn't need to bring her down any further, and I didn't need to let her back into my life. The victory wasn't in making her pay, it was in letting go. I had won, not because of what she had taken from me, but because I had built something on my own, something far stronger than any position or promotion could offer. A week later, I was back at work, sitting at my desk and scrolling through emails when I noticed something strange. Bella had sent me an email, titled simply, "For what it's worth." I hesitated for a moment before opening it. Inside, there was a single line. I've left my position at the company. I don't want to live in your shadow anymore. I need to find my own way. I stared at the email for a long time, letting the words sink in. She had made a decision, and while it wasn't the closure I had imagined, it felt like the last piece falling into place. She wasn't going to try to sabotage me anymore. She wasn't going to keep fighting for something she didn't truly want. I closed the email, set my phone down, and looked out the window at the city skyline. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the city, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. The past was behind me. I had my own path now, and that was all that mattered. Bella had made her choice. And I had made mine. And in the end, that was all the revenge.